Okay. All right. So this will be exciting. So one of the mysteries in the UFO community, right, are there's a lot of Renaissance paintings that depict UFOs, and a lot of them, actually all of them from my memory, are like Christian themed. But in the sky, you can always see the something strange. So I put a bunch of pictures. I didn't know how to share the pictures, so I just made them as part of the virtual background. So I'll go one by one, and then we could pull up the artist
Mm.
and the painting, and then we could, maybe you could tap into the artist if it's available. I know one of them was unknown, and then we'll see if we could, you know, see if it was. You couldn't even say it's a hoax because you're talking about, the 1400s or the 1700s. Like, I don't think this was a thing back then. So I guess I want to tap in and see what they were trying to depict. Is it UFOs? Is it something else? And let's see what you can figure out here. So the first one is this one right here. Let me see if I can get out of the way. Now,
You're so
so
funny.
so if you could see right there, uh,
There's
how?
like a man standing on a cliff.
There's a fisherman, and he's looking up at this object, and they're pointing. And I'm gonna zoom in. And if you look at the object close up,
Hmm.
he's looking up, and there's some sort of object with, like, you know um rays, like sun rays around it.
Hmm.
It's unusual. Could it have been a blurb and then he tried to make something of it, like he was trying to make a dark cloud, and he bailed on it, and I don't think so. Like, every
No.
painting has purpose. And let me see who made this one. That one is the Madonna with Saint Giovannino, a 15th century. So,
It's okay. I've got them here.
okay. And were you able to pull up the artist? I don't know if they're known. Let me see.
Yeah, yeah. I've got the
Oh,
whoever it is who's painted it. They're here. It's it's a
okay.
man.
Okay, it's a man. Oh, here it is. Domenico Ghirlandaio. They're Italian.
Good
Oh,
pronunciation.
thanks.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, this is what's so interesting about the spirit world as well. And I've often wondered this. It's you're never confined by language of pulling information. Like, if the person never spoke English, and I don't speak Italian other than like arrivederci, um you just there's no boundaries there, no boundaries at all. It's the same with using remote viewing. There doesn't seem to be any language barriers unless you are trying to view, letters or a sign on your target that is in another language. But as far as like connecting to another human being, or connecting to an alien, or connecting to whatever, there's no language barrier.
I noticed a lot of other. I think you get it almost like an audio feed, but I noticed a lot of people have visuals. Like, they'll have a depiction of a globe,
Hmm.
turning, and then it's like that's them saying, like, all around the world. So they
Hmm.
kind of get the information, um, in different ways, and it doesn't appear that you get it that way. You get it. You can almost talk to people when you tap in. I guess that's through Lynn
So,
Buchanan.
hold on. So my skill. So it depends what kind of psychic medium you are. I mean, it depends what kind of psychic you are. It depends what kind of medium you are. It all depends. I'm very, very lucky. Thank you, mom, grandma, that and my great grandmother too. I'm very, very lucky that I have all of it. That's what sets me apart from a lot of people. So I have the hearing, the visual, the the feeling. I have the
You
psychic
also trained
information.
with
Hmm?
Lynn Buchanan and then the psychic school of studies. You trained under Lynn Buchanan, right?
No. So
Oh, you
the
didn't take
girl
courses?
that trained me in
Uh,
remote viewing. Now listen. This is a big thing. Lots of people think that if you learn remote viewing, you can be psychic. No.
they're
The
different. I noticed
people,
that.
you know what I mean? Like there's thousands, and I mean 40, 50,000 people on that Reddit group. There's thousands on the Facebook pages, right? That want to come to remote viewing because they think, well, I can be psychic. But if
Right.
your abilities are not there before you find remote viewing, good luck, because that's the issue. And so lots of people I see on the Facebook pages are, oh, teach me to be psychic. No, you can't teach someone to be psychic. You can teach them to refine their skills, but you cannot teach this stuff. I mean, it's something you're born with. I knew from the second I was born I was a psychic medium. I've always known that. And I didn't go into the remote viewing to be psychic. I went into the remote viewing to refine my skills because I was working on criminal homicide cases. I haven't done, well, yeah, I have done, but at one time I was able to travel. I've been flown to international crime scenes and things like that. But I had to narrow down what happened to the victim between this time and this time. And I was like, how am I going to do that? And so what remote viewing does, it controls the flow of information.
I
So it
see.
won't teach you to be psychic. Like it controls the flow.
So that's interesting. I mean, I want to get into the painting, but like, you know, just because we're off topic already, let's say, like, for instance, on one of my properties, I have an issue with the water pressure, right, in a shower, in a tenant's
Mhm.
shower. And in order to fix it, I think I have to open the wall. All the plumbers I'm bringing in, they're getting stumped. I got stumped. I uploaded it online. We're trying to figure it out. And you know, like, since it's like, could you like, could I say, hey Liz, can you tap in and I'll give you some hypothesis of what we think the issue is, and would you be able to, say, oh, that's probably the issue or that's not the issue? What does it like? I mean, I know it sounds trivial, but that's the point. Like, instead of like a big missing persons case, could it be used for like, you know, um, uh, like a scientific discovery, for instance?
Mhm.
Like they're trying to invent the radio, and they're trying to find the right path. Should I go left? Should I go right? Should I use, let's just say, AC current or DC current? Should we use, before they knew they were radio waves, they just called them waves.
Mhm.
What frequencies, so could that kind of intuitive psychic medium, could you use it to an advantage to for other things like that? Like, could you call in my dead grandmother and ask a question that about plumbing or inventions or
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, but again, because I'm not a plumber, your questions need to be like very thorough.
Okay, so let's say it would be like this. I have three hypotheses of what's wrong with the plumbing, right? Just as an example. Hopefully this
I'm
is a good
getting the
example.
pump.
Well, hang on. So it'll be one, it'll be like corrosion in the shower valve, you know,
No.
and two, corrosion in the toilet valve, like in the tank. And then, three, there's a valve in the wall um, that controls both of them, but seems to be working fine. Or like, and then I said, okay, well, is it one, two, or three? And maybe I didn't even tell you what the three were. I just said, hey, is it A, B, or C? And then you go which direction, is warmer or hotter.
Well,
Just
then if you don't, I mean, if you wanted to do it blindly, that would be more of a remote viewing style. But
yeah, yeah. But what would you like? Could you use it in that way? the intuitive psychic medium, like, or would it be we should do some experiments, and do it like we did before with the spreadsheet and see, um, you know,
Do you
more
have an
specific.
individual pump that pumps the water to that shower?
No, it's the city water, and I do have a septic tank, but it's city water pressure. The rest of the house has good water pressure. It it's just the shower, the hot and cold, and it's the toilet supply, like the water going into the toilet. So when you flush it, it takes a long time for the tank to fill back up, like 10 minutes, because the water pressure is very low.
Is it because the pipes are corroded? There's some sort of mechanism that's corroded.
Right. So that was my hypothesis, was the tank, the toilet tank mechanism in there is corroded from like a calcium buildup.
Does it
And
look
then
like a little flat? I don't know what I'm looking at here. It's almost like your picture in your painting, the alien ship, but no, I'm looking at it like a flat piece here. And it to me, it looks like a pump looking thing.
oh, that would be it. Yeah, there is a pump in the toilet. It's so funny you said that. And then I was like, no, it's not a pump. It would be a valve. It's a float valve that turns off when the water. So the way a toilet works is you flush the toilet, the water in the tank goes down the toilet drain, but then it fills back up, right? So when it gets to a certain level, there's a float valve that turns it off. And if that what looks like a pump gets blocked or something, that could cause the slow pressure. But what confuses me is that there is also slow water pressure in the shower. So either they're related or they have a common denominator, like some valve somewhere else in the house that I'm not aware of, or they're just, it's a coincidence and they're both, simultaneously have their individual problems, you know. So I'm sorry that we got off topic on with my plumbing. I'm so sorry.
Toilet 101.
I was, well, no, because the practical application use for this kind of stuff, I think, is what's holding back common knowledge. If not everyone has a missing person to start looking around for, but because you have to be desperate and really go out there and learn about this stuff. And the science, I was doing some research on skeptics. The science backs up remote viewing. It backs up astral projection. But my hypothesis is that there's no application for it that puts it in the mind space of the common people. So people push back and they say, "Oh, well, it's all bullshit." Because there's a lot of bullshitters out there.
Oh God, there's so many.
Right.
There's so
Right.
many.
So
and the thing about remote viewing, especially on the Facebook pages, and this is not knocking anybody, but I just see, a lot of times people will share their drawings, and okay, I don't share my drawings. I don't share my handwriting because it's my handwriting's terrible. My drawings are terrible. Most people don't show their handwriting and their drawings because the drawings are terrible. But you have a few people on the Facebook pages that are good at drawing, and they're willing to share their work, right? And you look at their targets and you're like, man, your targets are just, they're great. You did a great job, but they're just so benign. And I just think, like you said, we could be putting those applications towards something that's much better. But then the problem that you have with remote viewing is, first of all the people at the top they want to spout the rules, but they don't want to follow the rules. So they want to remote view Mars. And how can you possibly ever get feedback on Mars? You know what I mean? Oh, this is what we found on Mars, and this, but you can't quantify that in terms of scientific tallying, because you have to score your remote viewing work, right? You can't
Yeah.
quantify that. But all the people at the top, I'm not all, but the self-appointed people at the top, they will say, oh, we're going to remote view this and we're going to remote view that. And you can't score it as whether or not it's accurate because you don't have access to it.
We could do a video on accuracy and the way we're doing it and how it's different and how it loses a little accuracy, but we can kind of fly through a bunch of topics and do it quickly. And I would like to do that. I was gonna do experiments and the news, and I just didn't know if people were interested. But now that I know people are interested, we could do that. We could do that tomorrow or today.
Yeah.
So
So, I mean, yeah, but it could be used for practical application. You don't have to duck. We can see it. It can be used for practical things. I mean, that's why I got into the remote viewing. I mean, just to recap, is because I work on homicide cases and I needed to know what happened between this time and that time. Now, before everybody starts jumping up and down and saying, "Ooh, I'm going to use my remote viewing working homicide cases," guys, no, and you never approach the detectives, they approach you. I never call a police department and say, hey, I've got some information about this missing. No, you never do that, because what happens, you start to implicate yourself. And if your remote viewing is very good,
then you're a suspect.
you're a suspect. That happened
How
to
did you
Joe
know the knife
McMonagle.
was in the cabinet?
Right, you put it there,
Oh,
and if
you're a
you
remote
watch
viewer. Oh,
and if
and
you
you came
watch
to the
court
crime scene.
TV, if you
Uh-huh.
watch court TV like I do, because I some weeks, I'm listening to court TV all day, you know, they don't need a lot of evidence. Sometimes you get cases with overwhelming amounts of evidence, but other times you get cases that have zero evidence. And just based upon the fact that they were questioning somebody for 20 hours and the police were twisting the questioning round, and you ended up getting a confession out of somebody, even a slight confession, you're toast. You are toast. So don't ever do that. Like the detectives come to me. I
Yeah.
worked on that Kendrick Johnson case, the one where the kid was rolled up in the mat. We should do a video about that. Um, that was clear it was murder. And they said, oh no, it was an accident. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't, because I picked the suspect out. I gave a description of the suspect, and then they came back to me with a lineup, like a photograph lineup, and I was like, oh, that's him right there. It was as clear as day. And then there were a lot of other information, like the video cameras went missing. We should cover that case. We should definitely do a video on that. But anyway,
I
so
like us doing like kind of like a bullshit meter, as we were discussing before, like just our broad stroke opinion on a particular controversial subject. I think there's a lot out there. There's people, for example, who do body analysis, body language analysis on videos
mhm.
to have their version of the truth come out. There's also handwriting analysis, which is very effective. I actually read a book, very short book. I can read handwriting now very well, and
Wow.
it's very easy to do, but it helps. It's like I can understand how the FBI would develop something like that when you have like a note from the killer kind of a thing, and
Mhm.
you could really get in their mind. A good example of that is like how a young girl, has a specific way of writing, kind of like a bubbly
Yeah.
way of writing versus a guy. Why would that be the case, right? So the handwriting is like it taps into, you can make a profile of a person. There are differences, and it tells you what they are, so you could look at someone's handwriting and know if they're like a nervous person, or or how
Oh
about someone
yeah,
who
like
writes
I
in all
can see
caps.
that. But my
Yeah.
big question is now is that still relevant? Because how many kids do you know that actually sit down past elementary school and do handwriting?
Yeah, you could still tap in. You could still tap in because someone who writes, for example, in all capital letters, is a person, and someone who can't fit in the lines, and they go outside of the lines, they're outside of their boundaries. They're kind of like a wild card a little bit, or someone who writes very small, you know, that's how they see themselves. Or if they write your name, dear Liz, and then write what they're going to write. But then in the bottom, they write, sign Craig. If Craig is bigger than the Liz, they see themselves bigger than you. There's a bunch of things like that
That's cool.
make sense. If they write in a certain way up, they're like a happy person. If they write kind of like down, they're suffering from depression. Like if you don't have the lines, and how people kind of swerve up or down, and just by reading people's handwriting, and then knowing them individually, I'm like, oh yeah, but I don't say it because you could really get you can kind of see in their, like, if they're gay, or if they're, you can get in their sexual, like, you don't tell people, that stuff, but it's really insightful. I really recommend people to, pick that up, because it's very easy to do. Like, it takes, like, I think I read the book in a day, like 80 pages. It was called Sex, Lies, and Handwriting. I don't remember the author, but Sex, Lies, and Handwriting. And the premise is that she was, an FBI person, and they solved cases. So they were able to, like, she went back in time for, like, serial killers, and serial killers have a particular way of writing. And so where were we?
There's a lady over the top of your head. You just poked her in the eye.
What I'll do down below in the description is put the they could just click when we actually get on subject. You know what I mean? Like 5 minutes in, and then it'll go, and I'll break it down for this video alone, because we're way off subject. But I think it's interesting.
Yeah, but it is.
Keep in the video.
We're so interesting. Why would they want to skip through?
If the video is called, alien analysis from the paintings or whatever, I'm sure they're coming there for that, and not my plumbing issue.
That's so funny.
No,
but I mean, it was just showing, like, what remote viewing can do,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. And we're trying to figure it out too. We're not all knowing. I mean, someone called me like I was omnipresent, I'm like, no, because it's like there's a certain judgment that comes with this stuff, when you're pioneering. Okay, so what's going on with Domenico Girliandeo?
Oh, I've lost the picture. There we go. What is interesting is I've got the painter here, and so he heard stories. He's basically. Were you by the coast? Yeah. Okay. So he was by the coast. He used to, painters would hang out and at this time they hung out at bars and things like that. And they would all exchange ideas. And the fishermen, what he's telling me, the fishermen would come into the bars, and they would talk about, the stories of being out on the sea, and they would see strange objects. And he got one to describe the object, and he sort of sketched a drawing as it was being, did it look like this, did it look like that, did it look like this, did it look like that? And that's how he came up with that in the background. Now, he didn't want to put it very forward in his painting because, at that time it's really taboo.
Oh, really? And did they think it was alien? What did they think?
They had no idea what it was. They call them the people of the sky.
Oh. Did they have like a hypothesis that they were actually people?
Did you think that they were people? They didn't know what they were.
Did they imagine aliens? Did they imagine spirits or angels?
Did you think it was a spirit? They had no idea. He's telling me they had no idea. Did you ever see any beings? No, they never saw the beings. They would just see like the vessels, the ships.
Okay.
They had no idea. They had people guessing about maybe it was a sign from God. And that is why it's ended up in these paintings. But
Oh,
this
I
guy's
see.
very interesting because he's telling me he wanted, he wanted to include it in the painting. So years down the line, if somebody actually did know what these were, they could always reference back. So he had that in mind as well. He saw this as like a timestamp.
Oh, interesting. So,
Mm-hmm.
so was this? So they were stories by the fishermen. Sorry, I'm getting over a cold. And there was mystery behind it. Were there lots of stories, or it was just like one or two stories that were very popular?
You would have to give them a few drinks. And I feel like the artists would give them a few drinks in order to extract the information, because it was something that they really didn't want to talk about,
Why?
because in those times, why did you not want to talk about it? Because of the religion. In those times it was very religious. He's telling me it could get you in a lot of trouble, because
With the church?
you could be seen as worshiping idol instead of worshiping God.
Okay. Was he afraid of depicting this in the painting, and then the church kind of, you know, coming after him for that? Was it a concern?
Was it a concern of yours if you depicted this in the painting? No, he said no. He made it far away. So
Okay.
you'd have to really, because if you're looking at the painting, he's telling me you're looking at the angelic figures there right at the front, and
Yeah.
it's only going to be somebody who really studies art. And even then, he's saying you could say that that was a religious symbol. It was a sign from God,
Okay.
but
Got it.
it wasn't a sign. But it's these things that the fishermen used to see in in the sky.
I see. Okay. All right. Is there anything else coming through that he could add, or we have to ask questions for it to be accurate?
Is there anything else you want to say about it? I feel like he's done 4 paintings with something of that nature in them.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, this might be the best one, but what about now that he's in spirit, does he know what it was?
Oh, that's a good question. Do you know what it? Yeah, it's definitely alien spaceship. Yeah, they didn't. He's saying we didn't know it at the time, but it's definitely aliens, UFO. And do you know where they're from in the universe? He's saying they're from another galaxy. Are they, are we right when we say the grays and what are the other ones? I don't even know the classification. The gray, are they grays? No. Are they good aliens or bad aliens? All bad. That's the thing. People say, oh yeah, there's some nice aliens. I don't ever get that when I look into this stuff. I don't ever get that there's good aliens.
So, so let's go to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this one is called, I believe it's called the crucifixion. The crucifixion from 1350. Um, Unknown artist. When I googled it, I could be wrong, but
Mm-hmm.
when first of all, when I put this as the background, it's a kind of like a wide painting, so you don't see the whole thing. In the top right or the top left or both, there's these little rockets, and with people in them. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay, right there. Okay.
Okay. Those are
Now
not
I.
UFO related.
Oh, interesting.
Those are not UFO related. I know. Didn't you say that this was all on Joe Rogan, or what's his name, Joe Rogan?
No, they discussed it, how there's
Mm-hmm.
Renaissance, with Corbell and Joe Rogan were talking about the unusualness of the Renaissance paintings, how far back the UFO sightings go. So, and my theory was, well, there would be no hoaxes back then,
Well,
right?
that's true, but these are orbs.
Orbs.
Yeah.
Oh, so they're depicting orbs.
Yeah. These are orbs.
Why did
This
the
has
artist put
nothing to
orbs?
do with UFO because the artist said, have you, let me channel, have you seen, so he used to have experiences where he would see these orbs all the time
Oh, as a kid or throughout his life?
throughout his life. So these are orbs, and he knew that he's telling me he thought they were ancestors. They were ancestors, those that had passed on, that were energetic. If you look at it very clearly, it makes sense to me. There, that's what an orb looks like. And the fact that he has people sitting in the orbs, that would make sense because you don't want it to just have like a ball of light in the painting.
Yeah, yeah.
That by putting a spirit within the orb, it actually very accurately describes the orb, because people see orbs all the time. When
Okay.
you go looking for Bigfoot and you go looking for aliens, and I don't know why, but orbs become very prevalent. Excuse me, that when we did that show about Bigfoot, right? That lady that was the BFRO, the Bigfoot Research Organization. I told her where to go sit. They sat down there in this, it's called the Wash. It's basically like a very shallow creek that you can drive through. And they sat down there waiting, and they were scared out of their wits because they heard these noises, and suddenly all these orbs came floating by them, and it freaked them out.
Are
So
orbs are orbs spirits, or are they advanced spirits, or are they, what are they?
orbs are just they're energetic spiritual beings. I think that they are spirits that are, they passed on, obviously.
So here's a good one. So these orbs that he's depicted, seemingly overlooking the crucifixion, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He believes that they're ancestors that are kind of viewing. I'm just gonna guess that they're viewing the crucifixion like it's an important moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so could we tap into those orbs and ask them why they went around the artist?
Well, he saw many different orbs, and he saw black orbs, he saw red orbs. He's telling me different color orbs. And yes, you can see different color orbs. I don't know why they have the different colors. Well, the black orbs are darkness, right? I experienced that.
Well, the red orb on my left, if it's maybe it's your right, I don't know, but it looks like an astronaut. An astronaut. It just
It's
looks like one.
so that one has like a reddish glow. Yeah, there's different color orbs, but typically the white light orbs depict or signify that they're of like a higher ascension. Um,
Hmm.
that's what I'm getting. The reddish glow, I don't know why. It's just different energy. Orbs are just different energy. We all are different energetic beings, right?
Yeah.
You and I have different energy to everybody. You have people with low energy, you have people with extremely high energy, you have people with, bright energy, people that have, that are pessimists, they have low energy, you know, it just, we all have different vibration, and so orbs vibrate differently as well. So you get the higher sort of ascension uh orbs tend to be white. Now, what do I mean by ascension, and what is he telling me? Because I'm getting this information from the artist as well, who's obviously in spirit, but and is also, he's telling me, reincarnated several times. Now that leads me to another question. It's like, how come somebody that's reincarnated several times since painting this, I can clearly see them. They're projecting themselves to me in hologram form of what they looked like during the time that they painted it. Now, why are they not projecting themselves to me and the many different lifetimes that they had? I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm reading the energy, and the best way I can understand it is that they project themselves to me as the painter that painted that, right? But it's funny to me how we have, because he's telling me I've had lifetimes as females. I've come back in. He's come back in several times since this painting.
Does he believe? Can you ask him in spirit if he knows what the orbs were throughout his life now, after the fact? Were they his ancestors or were they something else? What does he know now that he didn't know while he was alive, experiencing the orbs?
He's saying that not necessarily the ancestors. He's telling me they were just, because he had the capability of seeing orbs. Not everybody can see orbs, like most people don't. But if you have the capability, like I do, of seeing things and of channeling, all and sundry turn up. You know what I mean? Like they want to talk, they want to be noticed, they want to give you that experience of, okay, this is going on, that's going on. But he really didn't know. And in fact, he's telling me he would see them so often that he thought he was losing his mind. He couldn't really ever tell anyone about it. It wasn't something that he could talk to people about.
Could they be caught on camera? I mean, I've seen camera footage of orbs, but I wasn't sure if it was CGI. I mean, it's so advanced now, you can't really tell. Since only certain people can see them, does that also mean that cameras cannot see orbs?
Cameras do pick them up. Cameras do. I've had pictures of myself where I've had orbs right over the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Cameras can pick them up, but again, it has to be a very specific shot. It has to be, I like this one. It has to be a very specific shot. You have to be able to capture it just right,
Yeah. Okay.
But as beings, we have orbs and spirits around us all the time. And, but most people don't see them. I see them, but the way I operate is, okay, I'm going to be psychic between this time and this time. And then, after that, I've got things I have to do. And because you have to be very firm with the spirit world, right? You have to be. If you're not firm with the spirit world and you say, okay, I'm open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they'll never leave you alone. So you have to, I'll say, okay, I'm going to go talk to Craig, or I'm going to do this viewing, or I'm going to answer these questions, or I'm going to do this reading. And that I'm like open for business. But then I have you guides there that basically are the bouncers at the door, right? So they only allow certain spirits in, or to talk to me. So you have to, now that is where you need to get training. Not as in, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, oh, I'm a psychic medium, but then you have a load of bad experiences that happen. And then you say, okay, I got to get training now. So in order to control the flow of information, that is the only reason you would get training, is to control the flow. It's not to make the flow. It's not to receive the flow. It's to control the flow. So you would already know that ability is there. You just need to control it.
I think that knowledge is just for someone like you. I don't think people can start becoming a psychic medium, or they can hone in on their remote viewing skills. But anyways, you want to do the next one?
Yeah, that looks interesting. This one. Who painted this?
You like this one?
Yeah.
His name His name is Carlo Crivelli, and this is
Mm-hmm.
called the Annunciation with Saint Amadeus. Medias. Medias. Um, you know, there's at first I thought, well, it could be a halo. But the problem is there's so much other great detail in this painting that the halo, the cloud effect that goes around it, it's very well, let's pull up I could see it both ways. It's very circular. That
It's
cloud is very
gone. It's gone at the moment. We're just getting the big letter C. Ah, there it is.
okay.
Okay. So yeah, no, you don't have to duck down. We see it very good. What is that?
Can you pull Carlo Crivelli up?
Yeah, he's telling me it's perceived to be a being in the sky. Did you think it was God at the time? Yes, they thought it was God at the time.
So it's
It,
not supposed to be an alien or a UFO
is it
rather.
is it supposed to be a UFO? No, no, it's supposed to be God. Now, that makes sense to me. Why? Because I've looked at God. Okay. I've gone, I can take a journey into the spirit world, and I've walked around up there, and I'm like, okay, where is God? When you're looking at God, it's like you're looking at this light, and it radiates. You see what I mean? It radiates. Like, it's almost like looking at the sun. I'm not saying it is the sun, but I think the best analogy or the best description is like you're looking at the sun. You're standing right there in front of the sun, and it's this massive, massive ball of energy, and it radiates just light. And it's funny because I've tried to question it, and I wasn't allowed to.
Interesting. I mean, does God know where he came from or she? That would be an interesting question to ask, but I guess you can't ask God directly.
It's just energy. It's just energy. Like that's even now when you ask that question, I bounce that up to the spirit world, and I'm getting its energy. Like God is energy. And then you have to wonder, like, why does this ball of energy have so much control over our lives? Like, but then I'm getting no. He or she, just say he doesn't have control over our lives. We are in control of our lives. We set the stage before we get here. We do that.
Okay.
And we're trying to ascend into a higher spiritual being. That's our purpose for coming down to earth, in order to ascend our soul, make our soul climbs into higher realms. But why? Like, why do we need to try to be as high up in the vibrational sense as God? I mean, I don't know.
I guess that's another video. I guess we have to
That's
figure
a
out.
different video. But I mean,
Yeah.
so that to me, but so I'm asking the painter, why would you shine that beam of light down? Because God, okay, we've lost the painting again, but he's telling me that if you look at what it's on this very intricate artwork. And
Mhm.
the message here is that the see, but I'm saying, look at it. It looks like it's got lights around the edge. So do you think it was a spaceship at the time, but you just didn't know what it was? Possibly. Okay, possibly.
Wait, so
Because
this is an actual event that they witnessed, that they
was
felt
it
like they.
that's a good question. Was this an actual event that you witnessed? Yes.
Oh, and they saw light
And you
coming
saw
through.
light? Yeah, the people would see this often. So did you believe it was God? Yes, at the time they believed it was God. And
Okay.
what he's saying to me is, what did the beam of light actually hit the artwork? No, that was his own creation. But what he's saying to me is that that beam of light coming down onto that artwork, that very intricate artwork, is that basically it's talent on loan from God. You know what I mean? Like that's God's talent shining through the artist who created that um intricate artwork.
Okay.
So that's what he perceived. But I'm saying, do you believe this? And now, do you believe this to be that maybe you saw spaceships? It's possible.
Okay. Let's just do this last one here
Yeah, I
to
like
wrap it
this
up.
one.
I thought this would be a quickie,
You're
but
moving around a lot. Hang on. Yeah, there's a good place for you. Yeah. So this one, now who painted this one?
all right, this one's called Aren't the Gelder from or Aren't the Gelder might be the artist. Sorry, let me just I'm sure you can't see it. Aren't the Gelder. Yeah, he aren't Art the Gelder is, and I put it on your WhatsApp. Um, that's the name, and
Mm-hmm.
painting.
Okay, I got him.
Okay, I don't know
He's a
the
bit of a
paint.
drinker.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn off my
Or he
Bluetooth.
was. Yeah, so this is this a UFO? He
Did
says
I?
it's a phenomenon. We didn't know what this was at the time, but I felt I had to put it in there. There, you're good right there. He said he felt he had to put it in there. Did you think it was God? They had no idea. He had no idea what it was. Did you actually witness this event? No. Did you hear of this event? Yeah, there was talk of this event. This was a very big event. This that you're looking at, it was a huge event. Lots of people talked about it. There were lots of stories about it. Do you know what year this was painted?
Um, this was in the 17th century.
Okay, yeah. This
I have to go back and wiki it. You want me to
no
do
no
that in
no
1 second?
no
Okay.
no, it's fine. No, I'm just curious, but this was an event that was talked about very much. And this being here, do you know who this is sitting in the middle of all this light?
I don't. No,
Okay, that's
I
fine.
should probably
I've
Google
got
this. Yeah.
you know what? Sitting across the room, I have an Oxford University book of art. I should have got, I know you like to just ask me off the cuff, but I wonder if it's in there. But anyway, what he's
Well,
telling
it's a
me,
quick. Uh-huh.
what he's telling me is that being in the middle there, that human had the ability to communicate with these things in the sky.
Okay, wait. It's called the Baptism of Christ. Okay,
Yeah, that's not.
that's what the painting is, and it doesn't look like there's a narrative. It just looks like. I mean, I'm sure there is,
There's a
but
lot of paintings called the Baptism of Christ, right? There's Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, that's just, that seems like a generic, you know what I mean? A generic term. And why did you call it the Baptism of Christ? Because he didn't know what it was. And so I feel like for this painting, what he's telling me is the fact that he hid it. You have to hide it behind wording, right? Because you had to be very cautious in these times. Again, very religious. extremely religious times,
So,
and you
so this
didn't
was
want to
an
be
event.
seen as an outcast.
So this was an event that happened in his lifetime, but it actually it's showing like Christ getting baptized, but he wasn't. He was a Jew, so I see. So this is just some sort of event that happened, and he called it the baptism of Christ,
Yeah,
basically.
I can't tell what's going on close up there, and you're like bobbing and weaving. That's okay.
I'm
We can,
sorry.
anybody, we can all look it up,
I sent you
eventually.
the picture. I sent you the picture on WhatsApp if that helps, but um, it looks like a disc.
Yeah,
It's not a cloud. It's not a ray. It's dark out, apparently.
I see. So, like, there's somebody kneeling towards this figure, but I really believe what he's telling me, which is sorry, which is that this being, see, they didn't know what this was, okay, and all they could do was assume it was religion, it was God speaking to them. Listen, doing the CTT, how many lifetimes have I uncovered where, even in my own CTT work, because I've probably done 200 sessions for myself now, and I can't tell you how many times me personally led people across the desert because I thought I had received this sign from God. And I was, because in several of my lifetimes, I was a medium. And so I led people across the desert, and a lot of times I got us all killed because I believed that I was communicating, and I was told to take people across the desert. Well, we were ill prepared, we were on the run, and this here is, they were receiving messages at the time they thought was possibly from God, but this disc shape is not God. He's telling me it's not God. It is an alien. Now he knows that that's what they were encountering. And I've done with the CTT work, we've done things where we've encountered a few times people that have had like intergalactic lifetimes. I think I've talked about this before. Aliens were around long before humans were.
Okay.
Okay, when I say that, I mean like a conscious, because we had that discussion before where Adam and Eve came in. What Adam and Eve did was it brought us around to a higher realm of consciousness. Okay, they weren't the first humans on Earth. There were lots of other humans, cavemen, tribal, but what it did is when Adam and Eve surfaced, it brought us around to a higher consciousness, so we were more in tune with our actions and our moral decisions. Before, we were in survival mode. Do you think, like, as cavemen, we sat there saying, oh, well, is this, is killing an animal, or is killing, another being immoral? No, we didn't have that consciousness within us. But when Adam and Eve surfaced, then we said, okay, well, this is what you shouldn't do. You shouldn't eat the forbidden fruit. But, they did it anyway. And there will be consequences for that. Prior to that, consciously, we didn't know that there would be consequences. What is interesting is we should do a CTT session on Adam and Eve, and we should find out whether karma existed. Yes, it did exist. Okay, but the strength of the karma, was it prior to Adam and Eve? Yes, it was there, but consciously we weren't aware of it.
Okay. Yeah, that would be an interesting video, Adam and Eve. and biblical stories, and we can go into detail, because it's interesting with these Renaissance paintings. They're very, at the time, everything was like religion,
Mm-hmm.
and then here he's sneaking in a UFO. Just to go back to the UFO stuff,
Mm-hmm.
did he encounter something like this in person, or did he hear
No.
stories like the other? Okay, there's stories. Now
Yeah.
he knows that they were aliens because he's in spirit. I mean, was it a lot of encounters, or was it?
Yeah. Quite a few.
Did they suspect aliens? Did they have a hypothesis?
No.
No, they didn't know any.
No, because of that, he's telling me, because at that time they were so religious. Everything was God at that time.
Wow,
Everything was
wow.
God. Listen, okay, let's talk about this, because
That's why you're
in
going on Adam and Eve right now. I think your energy from these painters are bringing you in to God. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
that's
right,
right.
yeah, it is. They're talking about it. I'm
Yeah,
I'm doing a lot of channeling, but
yeah,
as a medium, as a psychic medium, and we run in like very close knit circles. I have a handful of psychic mediums that I'm friends with, that I work with. We do stuff for each other, but every single one of us have had UFO encounters, myself included. I've seen a UFO. Now, what does that tell you about aliens? It tells you that they operate the same as the spirit world. Are they part of the spirit world? No, they're not. But they have that intuitive ability to telepathically communicate, just like spirit does, right? So spirit can come down. They basically use they plug their energy into your light socket, and they then use, that's why you get tired after doing readings, because they're basically feeding off your energy to communicate. Aliens don't have to do that, but they can see that you're telepathic, that you are able to communicate, that you're able to channel, and they often come around psychic mediums. And I'm telling you, I've had a similar where that disc is in the sky.
yeah.
I've had a similar experience to that. I was 19 years old. My friend and I, uh, her dad is a doctor, and he passed away recently, actually. And we were at her house, and she smoked. Okay. And her parents were anti smoking, and they had, tons of acreage in front of their house, their front yard. I mean, their driveway was a mile long. So you'd have to go a mile long uphill. And so we went halfway down her driveway, and I had a telescope. I said, look, well, if you want to smoke cigarettes, I'll bring my telescope. We'll go outside and we'll look at the stars. And she says, yeah, my dad will buy that. Right. Because
Yeah,
they were very religious people. We'd come in at night, and they're like, he'd say, where the hell have you two girls been, Sodom or Gomorrah? And we just laugh, because
yeah,
he would have to buy her new cars to keep her out of the tattoo parlors. It was just a mess. Anyway, she's still full of tattoos, and she would still drive the new cars, but whatever. So we were halfway down her driveway, and it's pitch black out there because it's in the middle of the country, and she's smoking, and we're just looking up at the stars, and I'm trying to get this telescope to work, and suddenly that saucer like thing flew. It was quiet though. You didn't hear a thing. Flew over the top of us, and that beam of light, where that painting shows like a few streams of light. It
yeah,
wasn't a few streams of light. It was one consistent beam. And that beam was so powerful, and it was unlike anything we'd ever seen. And what it actually did, and I'm getting cold chills as I'm telling you this, because it frightened me. You could see every single blade of grass. You could see every single leaf on the tree. And we were in the middle of nowhere. And, there was a lot of foliage and a lot of trees. off to the side, because the if we went down any further, it was the woods, a bit of the woods. And but we were on the field part, and you could see every blade of black grass. And my friend, I turned and I looked at her, and her mouth is wide open, and she's saying, and this is how long this beam of light lasted. She says, "That's technology," and then it was gone. And it was like, okay, we
So
got to
wait,
get the hell out of here.
so the light that came down
Mhm.
enhanced your vision?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And it was, I can't explain it. It was unlike any light we have ever seen. I've never seen a light like that again. And we were so scared out of our wits. We threw the telescope in the trunk. We drove, because we didn't walk down. We driven down, because it's kind of scary out where we live, right? And we threw the telescope in the trunk. She gunned it back up to the top of the hill where her house was, and she ran in. I mean, we were scared. And I said, "I'll see you tomorrow." And I drove home at such a high rate of speed. And when I got home, I ran in through the door. My mom, she always waited up for me. God bless my mother. She did. She always waited up. And I ran in the house, and I was like, "Oh my God, let me tell you what I've just seen." And my mom said, "I believe you." And, my mom was the type of person that would, have Art Bell on in the evening. She wasn't the type of person to like sit around and watch TV. We were Art Bell fans. And she's like, "I believe you." Well, the next day, on the news, on the morning news, lots of people had had the same encounter, and the sheriff's department had actually videoed it and videoed this craft in the air. And it was huge. I mean, this thing took up like acres upon acres upon acres. And the thing was, you didn't feel a breeze and you didn't hear anything.
Well,
So it doesn't seem like it's motorized.
could you tap in now that you're, more intuitive, and or you don't want to do it because they're aliens and it's
I mean, you know me, because to me, they have so much more power than we as humans. As
oh,
humans, we are extremely limited beings, and
yeah.
they have they have so much more power over us. I mean, if you're talking about millions of beings that can just telepathically communicate and are not bound by gravity. Well, of course, Liz, they're in space. No, that's not what I mean. When somebody crosses over and they die, their body stays here on the earth, right? But their spirit and their soul goes into the spirit world. We're bound by gravity because we have a body. I find that these aliens, most of them are not in a body.
Okay. They're more spiritual, or
I don't know what they are. I really don't. And it's kind of frightening. But as like going back to when I'm channeling, they have to show some sort of body in hologram form, like that painter who said, "Yeah, I've been reincarnated loads and loads of times, but this is what I look like when I painted that." When you're looking at an alien, you're looking at a hologram. That's what I find. Now, am I saying that no aliens have bodies? No, but I'm saying from my findings, I'm looking at a hologram, and they do look kind of freaky. But then, is it is that my conscious mind stepping in and skewing what they look like? No, they're telling me no. See, as I'm even talking about them, I've got them here. And what happens is, and this has been confirmed by a guy on our Patreon who's an excellent remote viewer, excellent. um he wrote to me. He's like, just like you said, where you can't shake them, you can't seem to shake them. And that's why I don't like toying with aliens, because they have no respect for boundaries, whereas spirits do. From the spirit world, you say, "Okay, I'm finished channeling now. Any last messages?" "Yeah." "Okay." When I'm doing a reading, "Oh, we love you," this, that, and the other. Once you end the session or you finish the reading, the aliens don't leave. They have no respect for boundaries. Okay. And my guides can't get rid of them. So what happens is they tend to hang around. That's why I don't like them. That they're powerful. They know that they're powerful. And I believe that when people are experiencing alien abductions, that actually the aliens have the power to somehow remove the conscious mind and take it wherever they want it to go, and then they just put the conscious mind back. I don't know. I know that there are abductions where people have physically left and they probably had to study the body at some point, but I think a lot of alien abductions are they just abduct the conscious mind.
We should go into that another video, alien abductions, and kind of like a mystery. You know, people should vote what kind of topics we want to cover, because
Yeah.
yeah.
I know that they're all going to tick aliens, and then I'm going to be plagued every night because you can't. I mean, it could take a month to shake them. Seriously, it can take a month to get rid of them.
We just don't have to, you know, do readings with them. You know, like, I mean, we did with Ra, but you know, if we're doing like the painting with the UFOs, you're just pulling the artist. It's like we're skipping. We're right on the edge, on the boundary.
Yeah. Well, you got to be careful you don't fall off.
All right, I'm gonna stop this one here. I think this one.
Okay. Well, I hope these guys enjoy it. Again, you can find me on Patreon, Remote Viewing and Beyond, Remote Viewing and Beyond, or on my website, remoteviewingandbeyond.com. And if you need to contact me, there's a contact box there. Just fill it out, and I will get back to you.
Yes, and I highly recommend a reading or a CTT session. With the reading, a lot of people that I've referred, I actually got a reading for a friend, and then they went with Liz, and then consequently now every family member booked a reading with Liz thereafter, because everyone was like, how does she know? Oh my God, she's spot on with the family, with the sister, with the brother. And I've heard that story 30 times now. So, Liz, you should do a money back guarantee.
Well, I do a money back guarantee. Of course I do. I mean, if somebody's not happy with their reading, it's the decent thing to do. But I'll be honest with you, I've only had a couple of people that weren't happy with their readings, and that's because I told them what they needed to hear, not what they wanted to hear. You know what I mean? Like they had a thing in their mind that they wanted to hear, that life was going to be fantastic from here on out. They're not going to struggle. They're not going to have a court case. They're not this, they're not that. And I was like, I'm sorry, but you know, it is going to be a struggle. So they were you know, they were not happy about the information that they received, even though that information was true. It, you know, they came through with rose tinted glasses to their reading, and I pulled the glasses off, and I'm like, okay, this is what is. And so those were the only times that.
Just keep doing it that way. Just keep doing it that way.
Well, no, I would never lie. I mean, that's, you know, I just wouldn't, because what happens when you lie, you form a distrust with the spirit world. And guess what? The spirit world are very powerful, and they'll say, you know what, you know, you don't need this ability because you are abusing it, and you are lying, and you're this and you're that. So I respect my gift too much to give people, you know, the information that they want to hear. And I already know what kind of person they're going to be when they turn up for the, you know, before they turn up for the reading. As soon as somebody books, I'm like, oh, okay, that's going to be a good reading. Oh, this is going to be difficult, because they don't want to hear that their husband is a cheating, lying scumbag, and he's got separate accounts and this, that, and the other. And, you know, you have to be able, when you come to a reading, you have to be able to take the information. It's like the same as the CTT. Okay. And all my CTT people out here listening, because I know they listen to me, I love you all, but please, if you killed an animal 2,000 years ago because you needed to eat, don't sit there crying for an hour while we're in a CTT session. They don't, but I've had that happen where somebody's like, oh, I'm a vegan, I would never hurt an animal. Well, yes, you did, because in a previous lifetime, you had to eat. We didn't have grocery stores where you could just go, you know, the crops were, sometimes we had terrible crop years. You didn't have the variety. You just grew corn, or you just grew wheat. You know what I mean? So So in order to be full and survive, you had to kill an animal. But I do get people that are like crying down the thing going, oh my God, I'd never hurt another being. Well, yes, you did. And that's how we were. And that's why I say, when going back into that Adam and Eve realm, is what that brought about a more conscious morality than prior to that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I recommend doing the CT. In fact, I actually wanted to book another session.
We'll do a CTT anytime you like, mate. Don't worry. I love doing the CTT. And what is interesting about being a CTT practitioner, and you know, there's only about 2 certified. Listen, for anybody listening, there's George Duisman, who created the CTT. But if you do sessions with George, they are free, but you have to be able to tune in for yourself. And a lot of people, most 99.9% of the population cannot tune in. There's only 2 other practitioners, CTT practitioners, certified in the world right now. That's me, and there's a girl out in the Philippines. So the CTT is fantastic. It is. It will expand your consciousness. Now, if you do have some psychic ability, intuitive ability there, I can't tell you the amount of people that I've done CTT sessions for. They're like, Liz, you've opened me up.
Yeah. I've seen it also on Farsight, where the guy was recommending doing it and enhanced his remote viewing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There was a guy who did 30 rapid fire sessions, and he was remote viewing, you know, better than most remote viewers. But if you try telling that on, you know, the remote viewing crowd, see that, unfortunately, with the remote viewing crowd, okay, pay attention to what they're saying, respect them. I love the remote viewing crowd, but in some ways, they are the most limited people that you've ever met, because they're like, this is the way you do it. You don't make any modification. I'm like, hold on, guys. CTT is much more powerful than remote viewing. And even Lynn Buchanan was asked in one of the interviews online. You can look it up on YouTube. Lynn Buchanan, who was one of the original Stargate, who was asked, well, what other powerful modalities are out there? And he actually said tapping, which is what CTT uses. It uses a form of tapping. Tapping is a far greater healing power than remote viewing.
Interesting. I'll have to look that one up. Okay, I'm going to stop this one here.
Okay, well, thanks, everybody. Bye.